Hi, in this Chordious tutorial, I'm going to show how to bulk export diagrams from collections in the diagram library. This tutorial assumes that you already have Chordious installed and you've already created diagrams and saved them in your diagram library. So if you haven't installed Chordious, you should watch the Chordious installation video. If you don't have diagrams saved, you should probably watch either the Chord Finder or Scale Finder tutorial videos so you can save off some diagrams of your own. Otherwise, without any further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to open up the library here, something bigger, and I'm going to go to one of my previous collections. In this case, I have some diagrams that I found in the Chord Finder tutorial. So here I have a G, C, and D7 as found on a ukulele. And let's say I want to export these as image files because I'm going to host them in a website or upload them to my blog or share them with someone else who's going to use, they just needs image files that they can insert into their documents. So what I want to do is I'm going to click over here, I'm going to press Control A to select all of the diagrams here in the collection. And I can either click this export button down here, as you can see it says export the 3 selected diagrams as image files, or I can right click and do export. So in this case, I'm just going to click on export down here, and you get this little diagram export dialog. Now, the way this works is I'm not going to pick a file name for each of these separate files. Instead, I'm going to give a pattern that will be used to calculate the file name. So in this case, right now, I have the path where I want them to go, which is just going to be my desktop. And then over here, I have a button that I can use to choose a different path if I wanted to by selecting a different directory. But in this case, I'm going to leave it at the desktop. Right here, I have the format that I want to use. So the default is SVG, but I can also export PNGs, GIFs, or JPEGs. So I'm just going to leave that as SVG for now. Just go and disable because in SVG, you don't need to scale it. But we also have overwrite files, so this will automatically overwrite files if you're changing settings and you want to overwrite files that already exist in the folder. So I'm going to leave that checked. But I'm just going to go ahead and click this, and you'll see that the file name pattern here, we have this %t.%x, and what these stand for is the pattern of the file names that are going to be created. So in this case, %t is the title, and then %x is the extension, which is .svg. And you can see the example here, it says, okay, this D7 that you see in here is going to be exported out on the desktop as D7.svg. So if I click export, you'll see that here are the 3 image files get created following that title.extension format. Okay, I'll go ahead and delete those. We'll try again, and let's say I want JPEGs. All right, so you'll see that that example gets updated. You also see that I have an option set to scale. So if I just do export as it is, right, it'll export to my desktop, and if I double click these, here are the 3 image files that I had selected. I have a D7, a G, and a C. Okay, and I think these are currently at, yeah, so if I zoom in, you can see how blurry they get, right? But the nice thing about Chordious, since everything is drawn in SVG to begin with, is I can scale the images in advance so they come out a lot crisper. So if I zoom this in, you'll see how blurry everything gets. But let me go ahead and close that. That's the actual image file. Now I'm going to pre-scale them. So I'm going to say, let's say I scale it at 400%, so 4 times as big. All right, so I go ahead and click export. Now when I go into these images, you'll see that they started out much larger. They're still crisp and clean. So I can go to that C. If I want to zoom, like I'm already at the smallest zoom here. And so I can zoom them even more, and then yes, I can get them blurry again. But by zooming them in advance in Chordious, you can see they come out nice and crystal clear. So you can make sure that the images are as high quality as possible, especially if you plan on printing them and you really need a high resolution diagrams. I'm going to close that. So you may be wondering, how do you know what to type in here for the file name? So if you hold the cursor over this text box, you'll see this little this tooltip pop up that has all the different patterns that you can insert. You can type in regular text, and then you can use the patterns to get information out of the images. So for example, if you do %t, it's the title text. If you do %c, it will be the name of the collection. So in this case, we're in the Chord Finder tutorial collection. So if I edited this and did %C, like that, and put in the slash for a folder, now you'll see that it'll create a folder called Chord Finder tutorial and put the images under that folder. So if I hit export here, you'll see there it is, it created a folder. If, for example, I wanted that to just be a prefix, I could do something like this. Put a dash there. And now, if I do export, I'm going to delete these, get them out of the way, off the desktop. If I do export now, instead of putting it in a subfolder, every image will just say Chord Finder tutorial at the beginning. So you can type whatever you want in here and basically use these different variables in the name, right? So you can do the diagram height and width, the extension, or you can even have a number. So for example, in this case, let's say it's fine because all of these are chord diagrams, they all have titles on the top. But if I close this and go to the Scale Finder tutorial, I have a bunch of scales that I found that don't have titles at the top. So if I select these, you'll see that, okay, it remembered last time that I put in this collection name with a hyphen. So there's the collection name hyphen, but there's no name there, right? And if I just do title dot percentage, the title dot extension, you'll just see it just says .jpeg because there is no title on these diagrams. So in that case, you might pick something like this. We do %1, so now what it'll do is it will insert a number. So just 1, 2, 3. So now I can do export for these three scales, and you'll see I have a 1.jpg, 2.jpg, 3.jpg, right? So that's another way that you can handle exporting a large number of images that don't have titles. You can just have them have a number. And of course, you can do any combination of these things, and you'll see underneath this drop down, there's a bunch of sample things that you can pick from if you don't want to compose your own. But if you do want to compose your own, all you have to do is just hold the cursor over here and look at the tooltip, and you can see all the different variables that you can include in the file name. And that's basically it. This is one of the primary use cases of Chordious, is you'd go into your scale finder and your chord finder, you'd find a bunch of diagrams, you'd save them in your collections. We have all your collections organized maybe for different worksheets or different song sheets or different instruments, however you want to organize them. And then when you need those images to include in documents or books and actually print them out or put them on a web page, you can use the diagram export here and bulk export all of those images very quickly, and then you have those image files ready to use and wherever you need them for your projects. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.